What about your job would shock the everyday customer if they knew about it? Serious. I'm a florist. It's not shocking, but it is ridiculous how expensive cut flowers are, especially considering how quickly they'll die. Oh, and getting flowers for a wedding? Mention wedding and the price goes up exponentially as opposed to just an event. So yeah, don't say it is for a wedding. Especially if you are on a strict budget and have a small order. Just order a few arrangements and you'll be set. For the bouquet, say you want a wrapped arrangement, but wrapped round instead of flat. My first job was in a floral shop. The best way to keep costs down was to tell me that your bridesmaids' bouquets were for a dance recital for 12-year-olds, and the biggest one, bride's one, was for your daughter. You're just ordering the smaller one so that the other girls don't feel left out. A few years back I worked for McKesson as part of the H1N1 vaccine project. As you'll recall, there was much made of the fact that there was a vaccine shortage. In reality, we had a warehouse full of it. We weren't getting anywhere near the amount of orders that the government had anticipated. Everything in the news was simply not true. A kid at my school died from H1N1. He was like one of the only people in his demographic to die from it. Our area didn't get the vaccine until about 2-3 weeks after he first went to the hospital. Pretty fricked up. I manage a self-serve frozen yogurt shop. The number of times I've caught kids, and sometimes adults, sticking their nasty butt fingers in the toppings and or licking the spoons and tongs is downright ridiculous. It's not that they're not immediately cleaned out and sanitized, they are. But I'm one person working a pretty big store with a lot of other things going on. The number of times I do catch them makes me afraid of how many times I didn't. TLDR. Don't eat the toppings. I work at Orange Leaf and the amount of parents who don't give a frick about their children making a mess and sticking their nasty butt hands into the topping bar is insane. My manager hates it way more than I do. I don't know if this is surprising or not, but I work in IT at an automotive assembly plant, and I do almost no work every day. I spend roughly 80% of my day messing around on the internet, 15% of my day helping users with basic PC issues, fixing their issues with printers, email, the internet, etc., and the other 5% solving actual issues on the plant floor. Most days I get paid to just sit on Reddit. I can't tell if I'll love it or hate it. You'll hate it soon enough. Trust me, I am hating this as I type this. I work in a potato plant and there are several things that would pee people off. We send out product that we know is bad only to get it back and replace the top 2 layers on a pallet with fresh product. We get product returned, it is then sorted and repackaged, then sent right back. Mysterious fine black dust comes from the vents and accumulates in the storage area. I can't think of any more right now, but it's pretty gross. How many times the wrong house is chosen during an eviction? For every story you hear in the news, there are at least 10 that settle out of court. I seriously don't understand how a bank can screw that up. OMG, I know, it happens all the time, and it's horrible. Sometimes the wrong home gets demolished too. I'm part of a regression testing team for software. The amount of time I spend browsing Reddit while my automated test cases execute is staggering. I work from home. I often wonder what people would think if they knew the person they were speaking to was drunk and naked. As someone that used to work from home doing tech support, can confirm, pants were not part of the uniform and there was liquor in my coffee. When I was a pizza delivery driver, the number of people strangely comfortable with opening their own door naked would probably surprise most people. I have done door-to-door work for various reasons and it sucks balls, but hot housewives and towels was always a perk. Using a throwaway, I've posted this before on my other account, but deleted my comments. I worked for a large clothing retailer that took stuff off of Etsy, copied it, and resold it to the masses. I can promise you that almost every single clothing company does this, so Etsy sellers, beware. If you think you see something similar to your product in a retail store, someone probably bought your product from you and knocked it off in a factory. Urban Outfitters. I work at a hole-in-the-wall restaurant in a bad part of town in Louisiana. All of our seafood is fresh, locally caught. All of our vegetables, fruits were either grown at the owner's house or bought from a local. Nothing we use is ever frozen. It's all crazy fresh and the owner is very serious about it. He gives away day-old produce to the staff. He's also very serious about never telling anyone how fresh it is. Freshest food in the area and nobody knows it. Air traffic controller at a very busy airport in a very large city. If you would amazed terrified if you knew how close airplanes come in and around busy airports. Here is your example. You are in plane A on a 5-mile final. 5 miles from edge of the start of the runway coming straight in. Plane B that is in front of you just landed. As plane B is rolling out, slowing down, plane C lines up at the edge of the runway waiting for plane B to exit the runway. Your plane A, is now 2-3 miles from the edge of the runway with plane C sitting on the same runway filled with over 100 people. Plane B exits the runway, and plane C barrels down the runway. Plane C rotates and gets airborne right as your plane crosses the edge of the runway. Rinse, repeat over and over. It's like a well-oiled machine. Student pilots are fun. Your butt really grips the seat when you have to repeat instructions at critical times or you can't understand what foreign nationals are saying. I work on retail. Your typical cell phone case Bluetooth shop. Probably the prices. We'll charge $35 for a case they can get on Amazon for $3 and that we pay about $1 for. My co-workers will also charge as much as they can get out of you for each item. Then give you a ton of things free so when you see the item in a different store you don't think you get ripped off because you got free things. I schedule for a group of surgeons, one of which is a complete hack, uses outdated methods of treatment and most of the time has little to no idea of what they're doing in the OR. So they have to consult the other surgeons in our group. But they have great bedside manner. A lot, if not all, of their patients mistake that for being a great surgeon. I worked as a telemarketer a few months ago. Terrible job. Glad I quit. Anyways, the amount of information I had about the product I was selling was shockingly low. First I was selling plates, and I had no idea where we got the customer's information from. When I asked my boss, he said he had no idea, but told me to lie. So when asked by a P customer, I had to say I got it from a non-excising marketing poll. After a few weeks I got to sell free memberships to a savings club. That was basically a way of getting telephone numbers to the insurance department. I had no idea how it worked except that we would call them with new information. At last I got to sell electricity, the thing I was promised to sell right off the bat, and learned to give a sales pitch and answer a few frequently asked questions. Other than that I had no idea what I was talking about. I talked on and on about average use, but had no idea how much that was etc. So the job was basically winging it all the way, and hoping the customers never asked the right questions. Lying to P customers at minimal wage and horrible commissions is something that makes you feel like crap, and is in no way worth the money. Worked at Jim Borton's in Canada. Customer shat on the floor next to the toilet. Had to be intentional. It wasn't even close to the toilet bowl. I was charged with cleaning it, so I mopped for like 20 minutes. Ugh, so runny. So I asked my manager what I should do with the mop, cause it was mostly shitty by now. She told me to put it in the back and she would take care of it. I go on my break. I come back from my break to see the manager mopping the kitchen with the same exact mop. No change in mop head. No change in mop bucket. This is where all baking is done. This is where all food prep is done. And this is where all employees pass through to do everything. Now with a healthy coat of someone's diarrhea. I used to work for a sunglass hut. For starters, all of our sunglasses are made by the same parent company, so the only difference between a pair of $50 Onnets and $300 Prada lenses is the name. Furthermore, our return policy is 90 days, no questions asked. However, you can exchange a pair for up to a year. A returned exchanged pair is not checked, refurbished, or anything. We just slap a new price tag on it and sell it as new. I work in an all-natural health food to-go place. A lot of our ingredients come from Cisco. Free range, grass-fed, locally sourced. Nope, nope, and nope. Teller at a large bank in the southeast. Our teller system is run on software that's almost 3 decades old. When we process your transactions, it's on a black MS-DOS screen. This is the entire company. If the program talks back to an IBM 360 mainframe, you will be okay. Remember, when the world ends and everyone is dead, the 360 will still be running. These machines will order parts automatically if they feel something is off. Seriously, one day you could get a package from IBM with a new hard drive as the mainframe thought one of the drives was wonky. I work for a major TV network. The amount of catering thrown at us in meetings could feed a small country. It's beyond wasteful and makes me cringe every time. I worked as a horse trainer at medieval times, and the amount of abuse to the animals and staff, I'm talking about the show staff, no idea about the wenches and such, is ridiculous. Many of our Andalusian stallions had gigantic carcinomas under their tails that went untreated. Horses would get ridden in 3 shows in a row with no break in the middle of summer. I frequently saw animals bloodied from spurs, whips and bits being yanked in their mouths. The game's horses don't even have proper stalls and just have a standing area. Think cows when they are lined up to milk, and I rarely if ever saw one lie down. I worked at the now closed Arabian Nights in Orlando, and I just wanted to say this is not industry standard. The horses at Arabian Nights were extremely well cared for. They were excellently trained and very expensive, so the care was always top shelf. Horses had days off and a retirement age. I am sorry to hear that medieval times did not respect their animals enough to care properly for them. Libraries will throw out books. Yep, that's right. Books go in the trash. Oh, they might get recycled, but that costs money. Money a lot of libraries don't have, so often the books get tossed in a dumpster. Hooray, weeding. I'm the weirdo who's a giant proponent of weeding. The thing people who talk about donating giving them away don't realize is that a lot of the books are pretty much impossible to even give away. Think of old Windows 3.1 manuals. Pretty much everywhere I've worked has had some sort of giveaway selling process, so for something to get trashed, nobody would want it. I work at a college, and the amount of money spent on salary and benefits for upper level administrators is incredible, especially considering that many of their job duties overlap. Looks like I'm a little late on this thread, but oh well. I've been a consumer product manager for 15+ years, developing and importing goods from Asia. Everything from coffee makers to barbecue grills. I've been to 100 factories throughout Asia, mostly China, overseeing production and shipment from start to finish. Bottom line, I don't care what kind of job you have here in the US. You do not want to work in a Chinese factory, ever. You just horrified me. Programmer here. We are in the pre-industrial era of software development, and even the best of us aren't very good at it. Nobody knows how to write perfect, bug-free code. Nobody. Not IBM. Not Microsoft. Not Google. Not even Linus. Nobody. When something has to work correctly, like a fly-by-wire system for an airplane, they use multiply redundant computers, running code written by different teams. Both sets of code will have bugs, but it's super unlikely they will have the same bug, in the same place, at the same time. I work for Sainsbury's, a supermarket in the UK. We get delivery with items meant for Asda, Co-op, Tesco and a few others. The crazy thing is that these items are in the same boxes as the Sainsbury's branded items. For example, recently in a box of 6 fresh carrot and coriander soups, 5 were with the Sainsbury's logos and 1 with the Asda logos. It happens more than you would think. I used to work in social media, and most people don't seem to understand that the CEO of the major corporation you are tweeting at is not reading your tweets or Facebook posts. It's actually a 20-something with basically no real power other than generic form responses that we grab off of a book created by corporate. Oh, you don't like the dress code policy? Turns to page 27 paragraph 2 for response. Copies and pastes. We have the ability to forward your posts to someone higher up to see if they can give you your money back, but we won't if you are a jackass to us or post something incredibly dumb. Once, I had a customer repeatedly Facebook us in increasingly threatening tones because there was a price increase of $0.01, which wasn't even our fault but because of a tax increase in the state. Also, you should know that we are making fun of you. So much fun of you. Selection bias. Most people know full well that the CEOs and other important people don't do Twitter or whatever. However, your job is to deal with the 1% of people who are too stupid to realize that. Web developer. Here, the two main things I can think of are 1. The price to build a good, custom website. I've had people balk at prices that I considered to be low. Yes, you can build a website for little to no money, but they're often not very good compared to a custom built site. 2. Credit card security. While big sites like Amazon are probably pretty trustworthy, many sites are much less careful. Just because a site has an SSL, the padlock, doesn't mean it handles your information securely. I worked on a site one time where the guy who built it was storing full credit card information in cleartext in a database. In fact, everything was being stored in cleartext in the same database. Email addresses, passwords, CC info, billing address, all of it. I'm sure his users had no idea. Just because it's illegal doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Also, sites that ask for the CVV/CSCCVD/ETC number may not even use it. We only have to match a couple of pieces of information, and card number and billing address are the ones I've seen used most often. One company I worked for didn't even bother submitting the CVV number to the processing company. Somebody won't pass their PCI audit. I'm a resident assistant at an American university. We have to log contacts with our residents every few weeks, meaning enter any information about them we get from them in an online system. The system uses some sort of algorithm to figure out which students are likely to stay at the university and which aren't, and we have to further stalk the people who are risks to leave. We are basically stalking all our residents all the time. TLDR. Rarity University have to systematically stalk all our residents and put info about them into a database. Whoa. I used to work for a few tech companies. All I can say is that if there was ever a drug test, 1/2 to 3/4 of everyone would be gone. All of the devs would be gone as well. Sales folk. Oh yeah, they too would be gone. Coke is alive and well in sales. I work in a unionized factory and there were a few potheads that did just enough to avoid getting fired. The company approached the shop steward and recommended mandatory drug testing. He flat out told them that if they do that, not only will the potheads be gone but also half of their senior machine operators that were their top production staff. This included the shop steward. I use a sledgehammer on your car when you bring it in for repair, and I mean like, all the time. It's received prime real estate on the top of my toolbox as I use it as much as any other tool. The average car owner would be in fact shocked at just how often auto techs, in the Rust Belt at least, use a hammer on their car. All the time. Crap won't come off unless you really pound on it. And when the hammer doesn't work, or who am I kidding, the hammer always works, eventually. I'm a bus driver and I've been told in a crap gets real unofficial sort of way that someday I might have to choose between the lives of the dozens of people on my bus and the lives of the people in the car in front of me that I'd destroy in the event of a catastrophic accident. Swerving too hard and maybe flipping the bus or veering into a tree killing some or all of my passengers versus just hitting that car and killing everyone in it. 60 lives versus maybe 4. It's my call, and I get paid $13 out for this crap. Retail. Simple, but I recently saw our total shrink for the year, losses, theft, and while it was over $100,000 in retail value, it was actually only about $5,000 worth of merchandise to the company. Pretty high-end clothing accessories, but shirts literally cost from $1 to $6 to make. $6,100 retail. The gap for accessories is not nearly as ridiculous, but those clothes, dang. By the way, the company was accused of sweatshops like 20 years ago, but they changed all of that back then. I can only imagine their margins back in the day. By the way, the company was accused of sweatshops like 20 years ago, but they changed all of that back then. I can only imagine their margins back in the day. Don't kid yourself, man. They're still using sweatshops. They just moved them to an area where the natives can't tell the press. I used to work as a cashier delivery driver at a sushi restaurant, and a lot of people didn't realize that the base of most of our rolls is a California roll. I remember this one time a guy came in with his girlfriend and they ordered a volcano roll, which was a California roll, cut to form triangle, and topped with spicy mayo and broiled fish. I brought it out to them, and as I was walking away I heard him call me back. Apparently he didn't realize that it came with the sauce on top, because we put it in a container for delivery pickup. He asked if he could get another one without the sauce because they both didn't like it. A California roll was $3.75 and our volcano roll was $7.25. So he was basically paying $3.50 more for it to be a certain shape. I work in a pharmacy and people seem to think that all we do is count out some pills and slap a label on it. Some customers seem to think that because McDonald's gives you a burger in 5 minutes, this is how long it should take to dispense life-saving medication. There is a lot more to it than you might think. We have to check for drug interactions, deal with mistakes written on prescriptions, fight with your insurance, etc. I have seen on many occasions where a worker will go out of their way to help someone by doing a lot of behind the scenes work and get yelled at because it took too long. The funny thing is, if your doctor almost kills you, we don't even tell you. We call the doctor and correct the prescription and send you on your way. When I was younger and worked in a grocery store, we indeed did have a lot of stuff in the back, and often if you didn't ask nicely, crap would stop existing there. Lesson: be nice, and things that you need or want might actually come out of the mysterious back storage. I'm raging alcoholic, come off as homeless sometimes, and I'm really into kinky dirty sex. This is the majority of me and my co-workers are the life of an ESL teacher. I was under the impression that most teachers were alcoholics, and that this wasn't limited to ESL teachers. Everything chicken at Chick-fil-A is not pre-packaged and in fact hand-filleted and breaded in the store. Lots of crazy in this thread thought I would throw in a positive. KFC does this as well. Raw chicken comes in, angry satisfied customers go out. Cashier at a grocery store. With the amount of people that get mad at me because the price tag of the item I just scanned is different from what the computer says, it must be shocking to them to know that I don't control what the computer prices an item as. I don't put up price signs, another department does, and no manager tells cashiers which items are on sale. Maintenance man here. Rather poorish area. Ghetto one might say. Everyone has guns and weed. Also everyone lives in piles of trash. It is disturbing the filth people live in. I work in a nursing home. The lack of proper staffing, equipment, supplies. It's actually really sad. You don't want to know. I am a pool operator. There are times when the chemical levels are so imbalanced that we are required to shut down. But we don't because we are always told not to. There are several times a summer where the chlorine levels are at 0 and we still allow people to swim in it. That water is filled with pee, snot, body oil, sweat, fecal matter, and bugs, and several times a month bathers are in it while it is completely contaminated. Also, if a hot tub is very bubbly, don't get in it. The reason the bubbles form is because of high amounts of body oil, sweat, and skin cells. Hot tubs are cleaned far too infrequently. I work at a Walmart tire lube and express auto shop, and the amount of helping out a customer is beyond known. I know it sounds crazy because people believe Walmart is a crap hole, but honest people work there. Many of my co-workers try to help customers save money by telling them they only need 2 tires instead of 4 or a less expensive oil change because their car doesn't need inspection points if they don't have certain parts, i.e. transfer case or rear differential. Working in the back, a lot of customers don't see what goes on and only see the price. We also have to have a greater knowledge beyond what we can do to really help customers with their cars. We don't do major services like brakes, but we still have knowledge of it. We even sometimes recommend local family-owned auto shops if we can't do it. I used to get my oil changed at Walmart. It was great, up until one of them tripped the nut for my oil pan. They were old and possibly couldn't put a new one on. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.